Hello friends, welcome to part 2 of the Schumann Resonance and Astrology Stories video, where we take a look at the space in the Schumann chart on January 4th and 5th, 2020, where there was no data available. And what I did in this next part of the story is I looked at the astrological influences to explain what the energies were during this time period. And in some cases, they last for a bit longer than that, so that we get an idea of the energetic soup in which we are swimming in at the moment. I'm pretty sure in my mind that whatever was in this space was probably at least some kind of wave of white resonance. In my last video, which I'll link below, I talked about the Mars and Moon influence that I saw in the Schumann resonance charts. And the last time that we had a astrological aspect where Mars and the Moon were sextile, exact, at the same degree, we had this image of what I call the gates of heaven. It's interesting because, see this here? You kind of see that before the no data part of our chart today. Anyway, if you want to know more about this very interesting story, you can go and check out that video. And that has this thumbnail where we look at the history of these influences and I analyze the before and after of the node data space. I've said on the chart that we've had an energy of quiet and calm with sudden insights. I think that a big part of that is the story of Venus that I'm going to go into in a moment, and her passage past Pluto back into Capricorn. The emotions that I think may have driven whatever was on the chart here are very prominent in the story of what the moon was experiencing at this time. During this blank space, the moon was exactly sextile Mars. You see here at 15 and 15, right after the moon went over Saturn. There's a lot of change implied in the energies here. We'll talk through that in a moment. But with Mars powering our emotions in a positive sextile, to me that says that we might have seen some dramatic images on the chart. So let's take a look and talk about this fascinating astrology story. But before we do that, I'm going to give you some hints on the Schumann resonance as to what the frequencies, amplitudes, and qualities may have also indicated. So we're going to blend these two types of energies together and look at the whole story. When you look at the frequencies, you see that the red was staying in its usual range. You don't have a lot of movement on the white. You had the most movement really here in the yellow, which is along the lines of current trends. You have the white dipping down kind of dramatically, right, from almost the high end of the range to the low end, almost the low end of the range. So that's a pretty dramatic move. And then you have these big moves in the yellow. Now it's interesting because even though I said this is a big move, but it looks about the same as this, right? Well, you have to look at the codes on the side. You see that this frequency range in yellow goes from 12.6 to 14.6, 12.6. Yeah, so that's a 2 hertz range. But when you look at the code here, you can see that the chart here in red only goes from 19.73 to 20. That is a less than 0.3 hertz range. So the size of the movements with your eyes on the chart are not necessarily telling you the whole truth. you have to also check the numbers and the key code on the left and the right. Okay, now the other thing is I happen to know by heart about the range that the white resonance moves within. I think highs are about 8.3 and lows about 7.25 or 23. So right now it moved in a big part of its range here. So that's dramatic. Now the yellow range actually can go, it can get more expanded than this. Off the top of my head, I can't recall. I can't recall the range at the moment, but it can get much more expanded than this, and the green can get much more expanded than it is right now, and same as the red. So that's another tell here. The first is that in the yellow, you're having 2 hertz moves, which is big in frequencies. Second, you're having a move in the white resonance from the top to the bottom of the range, about, okay, say 80% of its range, let's say, has received movement. So what you're seeing here then is the yellow and the white reacting to what is coming in this space. What does that mean? It means we probably had an outpouring of white resonance, number 1. Number 2, the yellow, in my view, reflects the astral. That's our thoughts, that's also our thoughts, our emotions, our non-physical expressions, our body responses that are non-verbal, non-emotional, non-physical, our innate body responses, as well as the other things that are in the astral. So that's my interpretation here. So you're basically getting a human response from our fourth dimensional. Everything about the physical, our fourth dimensional embodiment, everything about the physical body that's in the non-physical, that's how I would view it, okay? And then you've got the celestial, okay? That looks like it's backing us up. Let's look at the amplitudes. You had the amplitudes rise, especially here in, it's the most dramatic here in the red, okay? And let's see. We can't really tell because whatever the movement is here, it's already come off. There is a very strange flatness to this movement. We have seen this before. I did a video recently on this from, I think it was April of 2020. The technological effect at that time created this just straight flat line. It was a different looking technological effect than we have today. But you see these straight lines. That's not common. The weird thing is that you don't see any technological effect here, and the flatness does not last the entire time before this reality shift. So I do not know what that could be about here. You know, it's the most marked here on the red. Let's see here. Does it occur right before the reality shift? That would be interesting. Okay, so let's use red because that's the most obvious time shift here. Okay, so we've got it just a little after 20. And then when does the time? Yeah, the time. Okay, so wow. So right before this, I call this the reality shift, okay? Right before this happens, you have this strange movement in the chart, and we can't see, like I said, it's happened before because of the technological effect, but we don't see that this time. That's weird, huh? All right, now let's see what the frequencies did at about 20. Well, the biggest movement, the biggest, most obvious thing was that you had the green spike, okay? And red is just doing its thing. You had yellow moving up and white moving up, both towards the high ends of their current ranges. All right, now let's look at the qualities. Red is still doing this crazy thing where it's making this straight line. It appears that most likely broke up during the no data period. Its quality most likely was choppy. This is extremely unusual to see the red like this, but it's been like this for months. I've done several videos on it. The qualities here are in the green are not really anything to write home about, except for that they're way off their typical highs of 31. So green is muted. You have the white and the yellow quality rising prior to, and actually the green, prior to the no data. So it does make me wonder if there were more substantial rises in the quality in this no data period. What does that mean? That means that we would have gotten more in touch with our truest truths about what each of these resonances represent. The white being celestial, the let's just say for this, because I know what I'm going to say in the astrological component, this would be our thoughts and emotions, and this would be our human experience. This red here would be our deepest passions, even our anger. Okay, now let me show you what I think happened. Here is the astrology chart for today. And what we're going to do is look at the story of Venus, because in my assessment, this is one of the big stories going on, and it's affecting us human beings in a big way, in a very big way. So let me go and look back here at the chart so that I can correlate this back to this chart. So we're going to see what is in this space. I'm going to interpret this for you as a story, and I'm going to tell you what's most important. This is so fun. Here we have Aquarius and Capricorn, and we have this incredible group of planets, and I include the sun and the moon in that, saying that in a line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you've got Mars out here in Sagittarius. Sagittarius in this story is going to be the future. So you have this progression of planets going through Capricorn, which represents structures of our society, structures of government. And then you've got Aquarius, which represents all the new stuff that we think, that's coming in the future. All the innovative ways of doing things. And so you have some long-term planets right now in these two signs. Saturn, structure in Aquarius, and Pluto, the Lord of the Underworld, and a bunch of other stuff in Capricorn. And then here are all the planets closest to Earth. The Sun, Venus, Mercury, the Moon. Okay? So this is what was going on right before the data stopped. And I just want to also point out, this is essentially a moon point. This is the north node of the moon, and it's the head of the dragon. It's like a destiny point. All right, that's the context. Now let's look at the story. The moon trines Mars a few hours after the data stops. Here's Mars, and here's the moon. They're both at 15 degrees. Mars in the future, Sagittarius. The moon in Aquarius. Now, what has the moon done? The moon has been going over this territory. And what especially did it go over? It went over Saturn right here. Why is that important? Our emotions about changes to societal structure came up for us at this time. Why societal structure? Well, because there's still so much going on in Capricorn, because Pluto is still in Capricorn, revealing to us everything that we didn't know about our institutions. Also, the structure of the new age. How are things going to look? What's your personal life going to look like? Many of us we just don't know, do we? We don't know what the next year holds or the next 2 years. So with the moon going over this key point right now, which is square Uranus, sudden changes in Taurus, sudden shocking changes in Taurus, the earth sign, the sign that does not like to change. It resists change with all of its might at times. So if change is going to happen in the physical world, it's going to be when Uranus is in Taurus. And my guess is our emotions were pretty shooken up about this. There's another element here, and that is that Mars sextile the moon. What does that do? It powers our emotions. It makes them stronger. We feel them. We are in high anxiety or passion or whatever it is. This is probably what broke the patterning here in the red. See how it started to move all around? It's done this before. That's why I think that there have been periodic breaks now in this pattern of being around high 20s, 25. I'm guessing that it was all up and down somewhere in here. You can see how Mars powering the moon, our emotions, as the moon goes over structure in Aquarius, the new could cause some pouring out of energy. Okay, so that's the first thing that would cause stressed emotions. Now here's the next thing. I'm going to go to today's chart so that we can really take a look at this. What you see here in Capricorn is that Venus is retrograde at 20 degrees. She's been retrograde since about, I think it was December 18th. Guess what? Right at the galactic conjunction. That Christ light, that expanded light poured out from the center of the galaxy through our sun at the solstice, landed in the physical on December 25th. And this whole time that that's been happening, she has made a journey across Pluto. Now, who is Pluto? This P here. Pluto is the lord of the underworld. He's your typical bad boy. You know, the one that's so sexy and attractive. The one that's probably not going to settle down and marry you, even though you think you want that. The one that if you do marry him, it's just going to be a disaster. The one that you have flings with, that's hot and passionate, this is the lord of the underworld. Okay? But Pluto can also bring incredible healing. Pluto's action is through it's through destruction of what is not in alignment with the highest good. And really, that's often what these type of relationships bring us. If we go the course, they show us something incredibly important about ourselves. And for you men out there, it's the same thing. It's about that hot girl that you know isn't marriage material. Or that fling that you have that then turns slightly dangerous somehow, okay? Those are the extremes of the expression of Pluto. Now, I have been speaking about Pluto energies as they get expressed through relationships because that's something all of us could imagine or relate with for the most part. And I'm going to invoke a space of sacred discharge here and imbue it with the violet flame for transmuting energy into a state of neutral so that I'm not transmitting a charged energy. As I say this, I'm just telling a story in neutral. Pluto can also be the dramatic things that happen to us that change our life. And in that dramatic thing occurring, we can face death. It can be the tornado that comes through town and wreaks its damage, affecting individuals in very specific ways. It can be that medical diagnosis that a person has to face and then fight through. It can be injustice, especially in Capricorn, related to the law that's unfair. And what degree is Pluto at that it is currently expressing? It is at 26 Capricorn. But when you read the degrees, which is the Sabian symbols for each degree, you read the next degree because that's where the energy fully expresses to. The next degree is the very same degree that our country, the United States of America, was founded at when Pluto was at 27 Capricorn most recently on July 4th, 1776. So the energy of Pluto right now, as Venus reviews herself, reviews what is the true value that she is exploring as an individual. And as she explores on an individual level her experience, what's really important to her, she does it in the context of this Plutonian energy. And that means that right now at this moment, you may be facing something very challenging in your life. And that goes along very well with the dark night of the soul that the shortest day of the year represents, which happened about 2 weeks ago now. Now, on a societal level, these same forces apply, but just expressed for the population. And because Pluto's in Capricorn, expressed for the governmental aspects, the ruling forces, etc. What that means is that we're also, as individuals, looking at our countries, and we are saying, what's going on here? Where's the value for me? Where's the value for the citizens of the country? And especially right now, the United States is highlighted because of this extremely special time of the Pluto return coming up. Now, the Pluto return for the United States is at 27, which I'm going to interpret the energy right now. When it gets to 27, we'll interpret 28. But the energy evolves from 27 to 28. So it's interesting because if we look at Capricorn 27, the Sabian symbol description is pilgrims climbing the steep steps leading to a mountain shrine. And it's fascinating because it does very well describe the way that the United States of America was founded. It was founded by pilgrims looking for a better home, looking for the freedom to worship God as they desired, to be able to express themselves out loud because they thought differently. And these pilgrims were innovative in their approach. They had a different approach, and they came to this land because they needed a new home, one that supported their values. The description of this degree is the ascent of the individual consciousness to the highest realizations reached by the spiritual leaders of its culture. Now, this could be a reason why our spiritual traditional leaders have been muted over the last 2 years. So that the traditional leadership, for example, of those churches, that were founded here in this country, originally going all the way back, based in this freedom to see things differently. And yet, everywhere around us, spirituality is popping up like a driving force, reigniting like a phoenix rising from the ashes, running across this country, and I would say across the world. The way the symbol is described is, it is man's supreme task to rise like fire, impelled by a vision they share with their companions. It's a very, very powerful energy. Now, as Venus passes over this, we in our countries review these concepts, especially in the Western world, where our traditional values are under significant attack. significant suppression and significant restriction. Venus plods through these degrees, considering. So what happens? Venus, the goddess of love, but also the goddess of war, passes over Pluto. And as she does that, what happens? Well, Pluto brings his charm to her, but at the same time, his charm and his ways encourage her to look within and say what really matters. Because the reason that Venus is the goddess of love is because she is the goddess of value. I have learned about all of these dynamics from my friend Andrea, and I'm going to link her blog below. She does amazing tarot readings, prophecy readings. So I'll link her blog below if you have any interest in that kind of reading. She's fantastic at that. So Venus does her dance over and past Pluto. She unites with him, and now she's moved all the way to 20 degrees. She's going to go much farther than that into Capricorn before she's done. I believe she goes to about 11 degrees. So what she's doing now is assessing the past. What is the true value that she wants to focus on? From a societal perspective, in Capricorn, we're looking at what do we want our governments to be like? What do we want it to be like from a town perspective, a county perspective, a state perspective, a national perspective? And if you're in another country, just apply that to the names of those things in your area or country. How do we want to be governed? How do we govern ourselves? Where's the true value of government? Of course, it's in the people. The people themselves are the governing body, and they're the governing body of each of their bodies. True government begins at home, when we take care of our physical form and our physical lives. When we come together in groups, it becomes a greater structure, whether that's family, whether that's our culture, whether that's our nation. On a personal level, you may have had interactions with men or women from your past with whom you've had karmic relationships, rocky relationships. You're thinking about, do I want to go back to that person? You're having a second chance. You're having renewed contact that reminds you of what happened. And that reminds you of what was the value that I received, the benefit from these type of relationships. So she moves here, and now she's united with Pallas Athena. Who is Pallas Athena? She's the warrior who backs heroes. As strange as it may seem, Pluto, his action often works in reverse, so that a negative experience turns into something incredibly positive that unites us with God within ourselves because of the interaction. It unites us with our own divinity. And ultimately, that is the true value that Venus represents. So here's Pallas Athena. Venus is about to unite with her. She's only 1 degree away now. And as she stands here next to Athena, who supports her, she's about to conjunct with the sun. What does the sun do? It shines the light. This will assist Venus in understanding her true value. We had the sun shine the light on Pluto back in November at the lunar eclipse. They were sextile. Now, Venus passes Pluto and connects with the sun. Pluto encourages her in a sandpapery kind of way. Okay, it encourages us to find the value within. Uniting with the sun boosts that value from an energetic standpoint, because the sun also represents our own soul. It's interesting because 30 degrees away-ish, you have Mars and Metis. Venus, 30 degrees away, is between Metis and Mars. Mars at 16, Metis at 23. Venus here at 20. This is a semi-sextile. It acts kind of like either a shadow or unseen support, or, yeah, of course it's that way. Those are the energies of this. So here you have Mars giving Venus energy, but she doesn't know where it's coming from yet. She doesn't quite know yet how she wants to move forward, which is fine because she's retrograde. She's still considering and hasn't yet gotten the clarity from her conjunction with the Sun and her journey all the way back through Capricorn to almost 11 degrees. On her other side is Metis, the wise counselor, whispering in her ear. She can't quite understand where this is coming from yet because of the semi-sextile, because she hasn't yet connected with the Sun. The wise counselor is there, though, supporting her. And she'll be there again when Venus stations and then moves direct back and then passes Pluto. She'll once again come into encounter with both Mars and Metis. Whew, what a journey. There is a warning of what was revealed by the light that came through during our holiday season. What was it? It was the 7 swords that shone on the Schumann resonance chart on December 26th. And I want to thank Goshi for commenting on this in the comments. She saw it, and that was awesome. I had a whole thing lined up to talk about the 7 of Swords, and then I chose not to do it. And today I'm going to do it. And thank you, Goshi, because you reminded me about it. Let me show you where that was. It was right here. So first, on Christmas Day, we imbued the light into our physical bodies. I talked about this on my last Schumann. Then we had the 7 swords before the light fully imbued across us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What does the 7 of swords mean? The 7 of swords is about using your initiative. It's about plotting and planning. It's a challenging card. In general, it talks about the 7s, talk about hanging on, not giving up, and finding a way to overcome challenges. That fits very, very well with the astrological story we just discussed. But the 7 of swords can also have a warning in it, especially in relationships, where it can mean betrayal, deceit, and infidelity. It's very, very apt that the 7 of swords comes as Venus passes over Pluto. How do we make our way, given that the energies of theft and betrayal, given that these warnings are here shown to us through our subconscious, through our non-physical communication with ourselves on this map of human consciousness that mirrors amazingly the themes on the astrological chart? In my view, the way that we do this, the way that we avoid the pitfalls as we make the journey through our own psyches to understand what are the shadow influences affecting us, and what do we truly value? How will we choose to act? What is the truth of our own soul? In this challenging time, if we can stay focused on our divine connection that guides us, and here she is, Metis, the wise counselor. Here's Vesta, almost 1 degree of a semi-sextile from Pluto, the goddess of the home. And here's Mars, powering us. But this Mars can become a shadow element if we allow our passions to get carried away in the face of negative actions and energies against us. So if we calmly stick to walking our path, whatever that may be, focused inwardly on the true value that you have as an individual, that I have as an individual. The path is shadowy at the moment, but we are about to conjunct with the light, with the sun. That will bring some clarity. In the meantime, inner intuition, inner discernment, that gut instinct that we all have, our own conscience, guide us and guide us carefully. The path to build new structures in the new age looks daunting in this moment. Our emotions about what might come are stressed and strained in the presence of these energies, and the knowledge that we all have, whether it's conscious or in our subconscious, that danger lurks, that Seven of Swords is active. The shadow here, the shadow action, would be to engage right here at the true node in a negative way. That's because Sedna, the woman whose father threw her overboard, is trying all of these influences right now that we've been talking about, as is the head of the dragon, the fury and rage over wrongdoings and mistreatment in the family. We said before on my previous videos that Mars, who was activated by the sun, who was fully whole and healed during the December 3rd and 4th eclipse, that healed and whole man right now is a shadow influence, but he's there with the feminine. He's beside her. He's got her back as long as we keep from acting out because of the tragedies of the past. And that could be the past in our personal lives, or it could be the immediate past of our last 3 years or 2 years. Why did I say 3 years? Well, I think this whole pandemic started in 2019. I know because I was very sick then with symptoms that were very, very similar. And maybe it's going to go through, maybe it'll be summer to summer. Maybe it was around late summer, early fall of 2019. That would match with some of the other astrological information that I've seen recently that I talked about on my videos. That there's an opening of energy as we come to late August next year and September. But before that, we've got to do the work. And what better time to do it when we're backed by the amazing light that came through at the holidays and that likely came through on the chart yesterday. The human resonance. It's all about the vibe.